SCP-4290 is called The Child Hungers. I've never really heard of this one, but I know it's pretty major. We're gonna react to it today. It's by SCP Explained. Make sure to subscribe to their channel and subscribe to me if you like reaction videos, and let's get into this animation, guys.
Qinghai Lake. The largest lake in China is one of the most secure locations the SCP Foundation has ever taken control of. All available military assets have been gathered at the site, including 3 of the most elite Mobile Task Force units with experimental weaponry. SCP-4290 must not be allowed to open, and the site has been surrounded by nuclear mines and targeted with the Dagaz Break orbital strike system. The perimeter cannot be breached, even if it means the complete annihilation of the entire area. This is considered to be an acceptable loss for the Foundation, since the destruction that would be caused by taking such an extreme measure is far from the worst-case scenario when it comes to SCP-4290.
So what's it do?
That's because the entity contained within SCP-4290 site has the potential to create a true end-of-the-world scenario. The Foundation, of course, is no stranger to such situations, and even has a set of designations for the various types of apocalypses, like CK-class restructuring scenarios, and ZK-class end-of-reality scenarios. And since dealing with the end of the world is nothing new for the Foundation, certain precautions have been taken at the 4290 site. If containment measures fail, selected Foundation personnel and civilians will be taken into nearby emergency shelters that will hopefully survive the chaos that would occur following a breach. And the Foundation assumed that there was a good chance this plan would have to be used at some point, since at the time these precautions were put in place, it was impossible to know the chance of successful long-term containment. But just what is the entity that is held within the site of SCP-4290 that is capable of causing so much death and destruction on a major scale? They call it simply the Child. No one has ever seen the Child. No one knows what the entity is. That's because even setting aside all the Foundation's security, the site itself is still deeply protected. Literally. Over 100 feet below the surface of Qinghai Lake, a stunning collection of relics can be found. The site is thaumaturgically sealed with 8 massive metal totems made of beryllium and bronze that resemble armed warriors. The statues are inscribed with runes and arranged in a pattern designed to banish the entity kept there and keep the seal on its prison closed. Archaeological evidence indicates that the site has been there for a very long time, and it is still active, with the center of the site periodically emitting bursts of red light. But lately, the bursts have suddenly started getting brighter. You may be wondering how we know so much about SCP-4290, and that it's a site designed to keep something sealed if it's been deep in a lake quietly doing its job. The SCP Foundation has access to unusual sources, including SCP-1726, and it's from there that we learned the little we know about SCP-4290. SCP-1726 is a library in China that appears to only be 1 floor from the outside, but on the inside covers over 14 square kilometers in area. It's full of a seemingly limitless amount of texts, many of which describe ancient and lost civilizations, along with some clues as to what led to the fall of these cultures. One text reveals the presence of a terrible and apparently unstoppable enemy. It was called the Child, but it was anything but innocent. When these texts were translated, what Foundation researchers discovered terrified them. They described the emergence of a beast with 10 terrible mouths and 20 arms stretched wide. It was attacked by an army of warriors, but they were quickly overwhelmed by what was described as torrents of darkness and dead geometries. They were killed brutally, and the Child used its skeletal fingers to unleash a torrent of flame. Every soul in the vicinity was consumed. Wax rained from the sky, and the Child devoured everything around it for 10 days, as the whole world trembled. But then something sealed the Child away in its prison, which is now covered by the waters of Qinghai Lake. Soon, ominous signs began to appear that the Child would awaken again, though. One day, televisions in the nearby area all suddenly stopped playing their regular programming and began to show images of SCP-4290, with a mysterious voice coming on over the images saying, "Repair the Child's locks." This became more and more frequent, and the tone of the voice became more worried, eventually saying, "There is little time left." Further investigations of the
What the
location
heck?
revealed the location of the mysterious mechanism that kept the chamber sealed,
Right.
which was designated as SCP-4290 lock. But how do you repair a device that is eons old?
Right.
And should you even be fixing it when the one telling you to do so is a mysterious disembodied voice that only appears on pirated television broadcasts?
Yeah.
The Foundation scrambled to find any information they could, and they were
Still
able to find clues
reason
about the
to
history of
research.
SCP-4290 referenced in other texts.
Okay.
Lost civilizations like the Shah Dynasty, the Erkshans, and the ancient Orthonians had apparently
That's how you say
strengthened the
Shah?
seals
Wow.
during their own reigns. But the most significant findings indicated a connection to one of the most terrifying entities the SCP Foundation had ever contained.
Okay.
And one of the most unpredictable, the Deva Empire. This mysterious warlike
Devite.
civilization has only been
I thought it
known
was
through
Devite,
one
not
source.
Devite.
SCP-140, a single hard copy book titled A Chronicle of Devas. This is a strange, anomalous book that is written in blood and is able to add more pages spontaneously to itself whenever it comes in contact with any fluid that can be used for writing,
That's
but
crazy.
seems to especially prefer human blood. It recounts the history of this civilization.
We kind of
and their
looked at
many
this in a
brutal
few SCP
conquests.
videos before.
While there was no proof of the Devas before the book was found, evidence paralleling the events written in the book is now being found in archaeological digs. More dangerously, as more pages appear in the book, the events of the Deva Empire are moving closer to present day, with
Okay.
them currently appearing in the book as having existed until 270 CE. The Devas were a
CE
bloodthirsty,
is-
brutal race of warriors. But there was one thing even they were afraid of,
Which
the
is?
child. The Devas had performed the last successful ritual of sacrifice needed to strengthen the lock not long before their currently described
Oh,
destruction,
wow.
and the book contained enough detail to recreate the ritual.
So
But
basically,
SCP
it's a
researchers would
ritual,
find
yeah.
that performing it would not be for the faint of heart.
Right.
The ritual required 3 human cadavers. Not a problem for an organization that's normal day-to-day operation results in the loss of
Exactly.
multiple lives. And the live heart of an angel.
Okay, that's
the
a little bit
description of the
harder.
ritual said that the materials would be presented. New runes should be carved into the totems. The items would then vanish when the ritual was completed, and the
Okay.
lock would somehow be renewed by this. It wasn't much to go on, but time was running
So
out.
how do you get the heart of an
Foundation's
angel?
Department of Occult Containment quickly sprang into action, assembling the materials and placing them in the correct formation. While it was not safe to descend that deep underwater to perform the ritual manually, technology could fill the role. A fleet of remotely operated submersibles equipped with carving material would carry the materials and perform the ritual without any human hands needed.
Right.
One of the red bursts occurred midway through the ritual, causing radiation damage to the vehicles.
Wow.
Runes that have been carved in the past were also damaged, and
Uh-oh.
the ritual was interrupted. While it seemed like it might have been enough to activate the site, it wasn't perfect. And when the ritual was complete, one of the 3 cadavers and half of the angel heart were still present at the site.
So where the
Had
heck
it
did
been
you get
enough
the
to
angel?
satisfy the ritual and reseal the lock? There was nothing to do but wait and
So
see.
it just grew
They
some
wouldn't have to
hair.
wait long for their answer, as the mysterious voice once again took over the televisions in the area. This time, its message was less friendly. The sacrifice did not reach the 10 maws. Brace. The child apparently
Brace.
was not satisfied, and the lock was not sealed.
Uh-oh.
Everyone feared it was too late to prevent what was coming, and panic was starting to spread among the ranks. One day, several personnel stationed at the Qinghai Lake site broke protocol and fled. None of them were ever
Wow.
found, but one fugitive staff member, an agent Zenovia Marinos, left behind a note though. It read,
Okay.
"Do we think we can actually stop this? No civilization before us wanted to fight the child. None of them.
None of them.
The sacrifices won't work anymore. It refuses to consume them. They aren't enough to satiate it. Once the seal breaks, we'll have a world of molten darkness and the child will be all that's left.
Wow.
Eating, drinking. You're fools for staying." Agent Marinos was apparently
Where are
so
you gonna
scared
go, though?
that she had
The whole
fled through a
world.
portal to an extra-dimensional space in
Wow.
order to escape. There would be no point in trying to track
That's
her,
for real.
even if she was still alive. But in our own dimension,
You look
time was
stressed.
running out.
Poor baby.
Foundation seismologists were brought to the site and stationed outside and began monitoring the high energy pulses coming from behind the lock. The energy was reportedly strong enough to alter dimensions, and the pulsing red light now covered the entire ceiling site, growing
Okay.
stronger and stronger as the totems started degrading at an alarming rate. The Foundation stood on guard for whatever was about to emerge, but no one knew if they had any chance against whatever it was.
Right.
On August 18th, the totems fully disintegrated.
Okay.
Some of the Foundation's best military forces gathered on the shores of the lake and waited. 10 minutes later, something massive emerged, phased out of the lock and onto the seabed, and didn't move. The assembled Foundation forces were confused and continued to observe the creature, and after no activity was seen after 3 hours, the authorization was given for submersibles and a small exploratory team to proceed down to the seabed for an up-close investigation.
Is it dead?
There, down on the floor of the lake, was the child. It was as terrifying as described, with countless mouths and arms and huge in size, over 40 meters long. The signs of previous rituals were everywhere, with angel hearts and human corpses littered around, some in the creature's mouth, but none of them had been eaten. The ritual had apparently been performed many times, but to no actual purpose. The massive being was scanned many times, but no sign of psychic energy, radiation, or other life signs were detected. The child was dead, and it had apparently been so for a very, very long time.
Once the area radiation happening?
Teams were brought in to investigate the body in person and perform an autopsy on site. No explanation of what exactly this creature had been or what its origins were has ever been discovered, but they did get answers for when it died. The time of death was roughly 9,000 years ago, not long after its initial sealing. The cause of death was discovered too. The child destroyer of worlds and scourge of countless civilizations had died from malnutrition. Whatever this thing had been, it had been sealed away and had died from hunger not long after.
It couldn't eat.
One civilization after another had continued to perform the rituals to keep it sealed, never aware that it was no longer a threat. With this new discovery, SCP-4290 was reclassified as neutralized, but the child taught us all a valuable lesson about being prepared for potential world-ending scenarios. And the Foundation continues to stand on alert for any more entities from the distant past that may pose a threat. So who the hell was making the TV commercials? Because who knows what else is sealed away at the bottom of a lake,
doing the pirated
abandoned mine, or in the ocean's deepest trenches. There might just be another existential threat to humanity that's just waiting for a chance to emerge and help us all if it remembered.
There's a bunch of them.
For more on strange...
Wow, man. That's weird. Like, it was dead the whole time. But the red... so I guess the red glow or whatever was from the ritual failing or whatever. Like, the spell was actually expiring. That's the only thing I could think of. And as far as the fact that it wasn't so powerful that it had to eat, it couldn't not eat, you know what I mean? 682 doesn't need to eat. It's crazy, man. Guys, SCP Explained, make sure to subscribe to him. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.